Yeah, well, after the election results, which were dismaying to half the electorate, terrifying. Um, yeah, more than half, right? Or like a million, right? That didn't vote for the guy, didn't get heard. Um, during the campaign, anybody who's ever been involved with a malignant narcissist or a sociopath, you kind of have the narc afterwards, and a lot of the disordered. I'm not the only person, obviously, to comment on it, but it struck me that the people who voted for Trump fell for a lot of the things that people who wind up with disordered people fall for. You can dismiss them as racists and bigots, and certainly there's an element of really unsavory, awful people. But I think there's also a lot of people that kind of fell for the sparkles who want to believe, and he offered a vision that that people latched onto. So how is that like an abusive relationship? Is like I said, I think that half the electorate has fallen for Mr. Sparkles, a guy who's a con man who tells people what they want to believe and plays to their worst fears. But the thing with cons is that they don't care about you. They just care about themselves, and the whole thing is a power trip. And then you find out that really you're just of use to this person. And so, like I said, I see a lot of parallels between being in an abusive relationship and a Trump presidency. The first one I'd say is spackle, and spackle is a term I use on my blog. It's when you cover up the unsightly blemishes about somebody with your own kind of denial. Spackle's making excuses, and it normalizes what's not normal. And I think a lot of people look at Trump and kind of cringe, but they go, hey, I can work with that. He may say things that are, wrong or off color, but I'm not going to judge him by his actions. I see some greater good. I think that's a delusion that a lot of people fall prey to. And I think that oftentimes people project their own values onto people like this. And I think another element of being in an abusive relationship is that you look to a strong man for answers. You might not feel too sure about yourself, and you find that kind of unswerving assuredness comforting when really it's disordered. It's not. It should be more terrifying than comforting. And then finally, I would say, I mean, the other thing that I found honestly the most disturbing about the election is gaslighting, is denying people's realities. It's saying, you say Trump would say something or one of his spokespeople, and then go around and go, I didn't say that. It is right there, and that kind of lying it makes you go bonkers. I mean, to deny someone's reality it's crazy making. And I don't know how people excuse that. I really don't. Although, having been in a relationship once with somebody similar to this, like I said, you spackle over it. I don't think you should. You should do it. You do it at your own peril. So I don't know. Those are, I guess, my thoughts on the abusive relationship. Of course, the post is up there too if you want to read more about it. A little bit of spackle is a good thing, right? Every relationship has spackle to a certain degree. And when I've written about it before, I use my husband as an example. He's a guy who likes to dress in goofy T-shirts and camo shorts. And, he doesn't dress like a middle-aged lawyer, and I'll overlook this as like an endearing quirk, right? And trust me, I have many insufferable qualities, and I'm sure he spackles over mine as well. So, that kind of thing, kind of, assuming the best about somebody or sugarcoating their more unsavory qualities, that's part of being in a relationship. I think where it becomes disordered is when you're spackling over the big stuff and it's all spackle. Spackle's okay for a little ding on your wall, but you don't want to build the foundation of your house over spackle. You don't want to continually be making excuses for somebody who is a grown-up, right, who has agency and makes choices. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the difference. I mean, as you could write a whole book about the difference between a healthy relationship and an unhealthy relationship, but I think one of the largest ones is a lack of reciprocity and a lack of respect. And I write about infidelity, and infidelity is, abusive in my opinion, and it is clearly a lack of respect, and it's unreciprocal. It's saying, I want you to abide by the terms of this monogamy agreement, but those rules don't apply to me. That's an unhealthy relationship. And I think people who are chumps, which I write about chumps, is that we're okay with that. I mean, we're not really okay with it, but we tolerate it far longer than healthier people. And I think getting out of those relationships is recognizing that it's okay to have needs and that your needs matter, and that it's, you don't have to parent your spouse. You shouldn't have to do all the heavy lifting here. Often these relationships feel really comfortable for some bad reason from your past, but and also it's a virtue to try hard and not be a quitter and think the best of people. Sometimes we can get a little carried away with our virtue and don't have enough self-protection, I think. I mean, kind of going back to Mr. Sparkles, I think when you're really involved with somebody who's disordered, there's always hooks, right? Nobody would stick around for pure abuse. You shouldn't, right? There's always intermittent rewards and things that keep you hooked, and a vision of what you thought it would be. And then the longer you stay, the more you have sunk costs, and the harder it is to disentangle yourself from that life, or it feels harder. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of incentives to stick it out, right? Until you can't. It's very painful to disengage.
These thoughts are very similar to my own, and I've known people that have been in relationships with narcissists. I've met narcissists. I know narcissists. I know how they operate. I know how they think, and I know who they target. And I think that that's all been evident here in this election, because people will see what they want to see and not what's really there. Those red flags are there, but you're just ignoring them because you want so badly for this person to be who they say they are, and just to kind of look the other way, which I think is really sad. I know some people that are still in relationships with narcissists, and they're, 5-6 years later, still believing in this person, that they're just such a wonderful person, even though the truth is pretty much came out. They're still just clinging to the belief that this person is who they think they are, or who they want them to be. And it's really quite sad. And I think that if you look at the demographical data, that came out of this election, you'll see exactly who was targeted.
No, well, it is the syndrome. The American people look for a magic pill. So somebody says, I'll do this for you, they'll believe it no matter what. Even if the evidence is against it, they'll still believe it. It's the same thing with someone saying to his wife, I'm sorry, honey, I will not do that again. I will not hurt you again. I don't know what happened. And then she'll believe it. I think the reason that she believes is because she wants to stay in the relationship, and she wants to save her children, and she doesn't know where else to go, which is not the same as America, because we were doing pretty well, considering, the economy is doing well, unemployment is doing well. Yes, not everybody's getting jobs, but that was also before George Bush Walker. So there were not many jobs around that time either. So now it's a little bit more like, okay, free fall, and people will do whatever they want to do. And we'll see what happens. It's going to be 4 interesting years. A little bit of chaos, probably anarchy, and craziness, and everybody else hoping that the United States does not end up damaging anybody else.
Concerning the presidential election in the United States, I think it's fair to presume that many of our candidates who have run for the highest office in our country have some degree of narcissism behind them and attached to their personality. And no person does want to lose. I'm very aware of that. As someone who has campaigned locally for a office, I lost, and I didn't see it as a tragedy. I didn't see it as an opportunity of failure, but instead it galvanized me and energized me to want to become more involved in the political process. And I think to speculate that half of the electorate have become delusional because they voted for a person that the other half of the electorate doesn't necessarily see as a good fit, I think is a little disingenuous. And as someone who is reporting the news, I guess it calls into question the reporting style and techniques that you yourself are using, because you're coming here as a journalist, and shouldn't your opinions be free from bias as much as possible, which isn't happening here. So I guess this is what the Huffington Post is about. Not surprising.
Are you from the National Enquirer? Listen, you're looking at Trump and not looking at Hillary, the other choice, who was much bigger of a liar and using the same case point that you have to lie and then turn around and say that you never said it. Here's the thing between the two candidates. Yeah, Trump came in here, and we pretty much know what he is, okay? He run off sensationalism. If you look at his whole life, not the last 15 months, he is a caring man. I don't believe your accusation as far as that goes. But let's say he is worried about himself and his own self-image. Well, his whole self-image is about making things great. That's his self-image. So what's the worst thing can come out of that if he comes in here and turns some things around that are definitely on the wrong track? If you can't understand something is on the wrong track, then you need to go back to school and learn simple math, because we're $20 trillion in debt. And if you're older like me, which you don't sound, you sound like you're still young and figuring out life. I'm 51 years old. Okay, I've run businesses, I've had businesses, totally blind. So I know about the struggles, but I also know that I want a country here for my grandkids when they grow up, that are now only 18 months old, the oldest one. So it's amazing to me. You can't see a guy who's never been a politician, who's pretty much been on reality TV, and he brought that to campaign on, to know how to get attention, say provoking things. That's what he's been in show business. When he says something provocative, he gets attention. He understands people more than you will ever know. And if you can't sit back and examine someone, and you're a journalist, I mean, come on. I mean, you've already walked in here with a bias. You didn't walk into this particular little feed you just made with an open mind and look at facts for what the facts are, because you have to compare two people here, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Donald Trump he's not a great orator, if you will. He's not great with words, and sometimes he says the wrong thing. But he is a great doer. Hillary Clinton is a masterful speaker and a horrible producer of the things that she's saying. So we had two choices. Some could say, yeah, well, we had independent. Well, you know what? I'd have just stayed home than went and wasted my effort to go cast a vote that I know it would go nowhere, because I do know math. I know percentages, and it doesn't sound like you had that. You as a journalist need to broaden your view. Of course, you're going to have your own opinions, but when the news media, which it has, news media has not turned into news broadcasting News media has turned into everybody's Oprah now, and you're suffering from it. Look at the math. Look at the America's view on honest and good reporting. I think it's somewhere down around 6%. I mean, and my way is, okay, you only got another 6% to go before you have no integrity. Before people read the news and their whole thing is, well, I heard it on the news, so I don't know how true it is. Well, that's a reflection on you. If you want to call a candidate out for lying, your whole industry is built on lying, twisting facts, and creating sensationalism so they have something else to come to work for and report on the next day, getting people in an uproar. If you want to talk about despicable, if you want to talk about just the most horrible things that anyone could be, in my opinion, the news media itself and most of the people involved, and for those who try to do a good job, I feel for them, because now they've been scarred from the actions of what you are portraying out here. The news media is despicable. You used to have lawyer jokes for despicable people. It won't be long before it'll be the news media jokes. So I love how you guys want to point fingers and talk about despicable behavior when you guys are just in a cesspool of despicable. So that's my take on it. Abuse of this country is coming from the media in their dishonest, twisting ways of reporting and getting people all in an uproar. That is abuse. If you want to look at abuse, turn the TV on, turn the news on. That's abuse. Go to work tomorrow, look around in your office, you're looking at nothing but abusers with some kind of justification that somehow they're doing something good. Clearly, if you look at yourselves, you'll see where the abuse lies. Now, that's my opinion. You asked what I thought, and you got it. Now, I think you should probably do a little self-examination on who's abusing who out here. No, I'm not despicable. I am not deplorable. I'm someone who struggled to make it through life, and I've done well despite how things are. And my whole point is making sure there's something left here for the remainder life of my kids and my grandkids. Yeah, if that makes me deplorable, I'm proud to be deplorable then.
What fools are Americans? I must say this straight out. What fools are Americans? They voted for the gentleman to get in, or they could have voted for Hillary. All in all, who gives a rat's ass? You voted, it's done, who cares? Look at you, you piece of shit. Journalists, you call yourself, what we call you is a bottom scraper. That's what we call you people, a bottom scraper. News after news after news. What a lot of rubbish. You're an idiot. Grow up. And if you want to be a journalist and tag off Varel, stuff like that, to increase your media content, the way you come across, you're an idiot. Don't be a child. It's too late now. Donald Trump in January is holding the whole your booze in his hands, everyone's life in America in his hands. Do you know that? In January, even Barack Obama, blah blah blah. What did Barack Obama do? Nothing. See, if you want to report something, lady, report something real. Barack Obama did fucking nothing for the care of, what was it, Barack's care? How did that happen? Well, it didn't. So if you're going to be a social journalist, to me, journalists are scabs. bloody scabs. Have a look at that, what that word means, scabs.
Hi, Tracy. That's a very interesting observation, and I have seen it not put quite that succinctly, but I have heard comments. It is said there was a very good article in not the latest issue of The Economist, but the one that came out after the election, that basically the Democrats took Trump literally, but not seriously, which horrified them. But the Republicans, or at least his supporters, took him seriously, but not literally, and which is the only way you could take him and still support him. The one thing too, when you talk about a narcissist or having a relationship with a narcissist, the tendency is, because I was an attorney for about 25 years. I was in the Consumer Fraud Bureau, the Attorney General down here. People, when they're involved with a con artist, somehow they're able to excuse it as long as they don't think they're going to be the victim. It's the mentality, and this guy I investigated one time. He was into helping auto dealers scam people. And it turned out that his employees, that the ones who went out and taught auto dealers how to scam people, were themselves scammed. But his motto was, "Hey, guys, you know what this is about. But here's the thing, I want you to steal with me, not from me." And so you don't mind a bastard so much, or at least if depending on how you're put together, you don't mind a bastard if he's your bastard. But you forget that the same character flaw that lets him be a bastard toward other people can turn around on you at you on a dime. So I think that's part of the dynamic of what goes on. So the people who will be most hurt by the Trump presidency are going to be the very people that supported him. Look for an excellent Garrison Keillor editorial in the Tribune. I want to say it was the 11th, November 11th or 10th or 11th, and it's the same uneducated people, and I don't, that Trump says, he loves the uneducated, who will really bear the wrath of his policies, and their guns won't help them. Their guns are pea shooters compared to the kinds of things a Republican led government can do to them. So.
But it wasn't the uneducated people that caused the decimation of the country. It was those who are educated, who should have known much better.
I think this post is kind of offensive because it minimizes people who actually have gone through abuse. Just something to think about. But for the record, I do believe that America is not in a nice place right now. I don't think America is an abusive relationship. And to even make an analogy as to being in an abusive relationship is kind of offensive to people who have actually been through abuse. It minimizes what abuse actually is and how difficult it is to overcome. So I would just think about that.
Hello, Tracy Shorn. I did like your article regarding does America have a abusive relationship, with Trump and all. Well, I have to agree. The supporters of Trump and the Republicans are actually the minority of the people that voted, actually. And yeah, the way it's set up, the Republicans have pretty much made our country not a democracy, mostly by jury-rigging the congressional districts. We're no longer a democracy. Our votes don't count equally, and that right there should be a big red flag. But all you hear is denial and all this spackling over the fact that we're not a democracy any longer. And all the stuff Trump has said and does on his long history of being, a racist in his comments and his actions, is all spackled over by people saying, oh, he's not a racist, really. He just says he is, but he's not a real racist, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that, they don't use critical thinking and analysis on what Trump says and does, or even look at his Wikipedia page to see all this. It's not at all been hidden. His agenda and his racist actions that he wants to take, none of that has at all been hidden. So spackling over that and being in denial of what's right in front of you, that's kind of scary. So you can't say you weren't warned or surprised. And I did like what Bill R. said about his time in working in consumer fraud and stuff that that these are big red flags, and it does hurt the people that that need the protection the most, from someone like this, and that is our hard working class people who pay all the taxes, since the wealthy, like Trump, who hasn't paid taxes in 20 years, gets all the rewards and the profits of the hardworking Americans. And what services we get from all the taxpayer money that we spend keeps getting cut and cut. And the all the services that a great country of ours should be providing to keep it working is being privatized for corporations to make more money, but not to provide better service. For example, the war in Iraq, it's the first war that's been mostly privatized than any other war ever, which over 1,000 companies were providing services, which the taxpayer paid more for those services than the work that was, gotten. For example, people that drove trucks during this war zone by private company were getting paid $20,000 a month, and so over $240,000 a year to drive a truck in Iraq. So we're having to pay drivers that kind of money when they weren't even. There was complaints by the military that they weren't, they weren't coordinating with the military and stuff, and our generals, our top generals, only make $150,000 a year, and some really high-star generals, I think, make $175,000, the same amount that Congress makes. But yeah, these truck drivers are making more money than Congress as well, and well, the amount of work Congress does, I don't know if they're even worth that. But yeah, privatizing always costs us more money, but we don't get better service for it. For example, healthcare is now privatized. All, insurance corporations run it, and they're not in the business of giving high-quality healthcare. None of these insurance companies who provide healthcare is in the list of the top 100 centers in 14 different categories of the best health centers in America for these categories of services, like cancer centers and stuff. So therefore, they're not in the business of giving, excellent health care, but they are in the business of making a profit and raising the rates. So it's just costing us more. But and so I just don't see how the working class person is going to benefit in privatizing and cutting domestic spending and privatizing any services, and cutting out the Department of Education and stuff, gutting out civil rights and any other domestic spending. And as disabled people, will definitely get hit hard on the cuts. So yeah, I think this falls under abusive relationships. Yep, and denial won't help. Prayer won't help either. Thanks for the article. Bye now.